Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Julio Navas and we're going to be talking today about engineering leadership, a Silicon Valley perspective, a new book out. And we're going to be talking to one of the authors, James Bingham. Hello, James.
Hi, Julio.
Hey, why don't you give a brief introduction and background for yourself?
Sure, thanks. And hi, everybody. Yep, James Bingham. I have been in the tech and business space for several decades and have worked in all capacities, including what we're going to be discussing today about leadership and management at the highest levels. And I've got a business degree from UC Berkeley, got a law degree, and I'm just really excited to be here with you to go over some of the key concepts here that we can impart.
All right, engineering leadership. That's kind of a broad topic. What is this? Deep dive a little bit more into that. What is this about, and what topics are we going to be covering here?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, the book itself is really an awesome guide. If anybody was interested in becoming a successful leader in the engineering world in short order, this book is really for you. We cover so many facets of that journey to help you along, to give a lot of anecdotes of real world experience. I'm just one of about a dozen authors who have all contributed their vast wealth of practical experience in and out of Silicon Valley, and we cover all, as I said, all aspects of that. Today, I think we can focus in on some of the management aspects of being a successful leader, getting to that successful leadership spot, and really how important management is and the various ways you can manage. We use the term manage, kind of holistically, but it really has a lot of elements to it. We can touch on some of those today.
Cool. Yeah, let's keep diving deeper into that. So we are going to be, focusing on a section of the book called "Managing It All." And what does, this kind of engineering management mean to you?
Yeah, engineering management is it's a great way to describe what is needed both personally, professionally, and politically. And what we have is you have to be able to manage yourself, and sometimes it's more engineering, sometimes it's more sciencey, sometimes it's more art. How you manage your own career path, how you manage your own workloads, how you manage your own sticking with your own personal styles and what works for you. There's also managing professionally, managing in the workforce, and that's managing people around you, managing with people that you need to interact. And we have a great section on managing up and down and sideways and inside and outside. And management, in the workforce takes on all those different ways that you need to do it. And in managing politically as well, in the engineering world, it's in a lot of ways highly politicized in the sense that not in a negative way, but in a constructive way, that in order for the engineering methods to work well, understanding those and how they interact with other teams that are not as science focused or engineering focused, that politics comes into play. And it's great if you have that understanding, and we go through that in the book in detail, to have that understanding of what it takes to really navigate those political waters.
Yeah, politics usually has kind of a negative connotation, but what you're talking about here is really more the interaction, right?
That's right.
So more context rather than content. And tell me more about that.
Yeah, exactly. That's right, Julio. Yeah. So when you are in situations, and especially I would say at the highest levels, and this is what we're talking about in this book, is to be able to get to those highest levels in the engineering world, in the leadership spaces, is you're not just managing and leading in a bubble, but rather you're actually now the connection point you personally will be the connection point to so many other teams in the business and in the business world that make it possible to scale the engineering that you're developing, to bring to market what in a successful way what you're developing, to have feedback both directions so that you can quickly adapt what your teams are working on so that they will be then successful. And it really is that nuance that is the difference between a decent leader and a really outstanding engineering leader.
Well, I can imagine though that with all that nuance, I mean, everyone's speaking a different language, right? The salespeople don't speak, technicalese, and marketing speaks a different language and a different outlook. It's almost sounds like it's ripe for a whole bunch of misunderstandings or maybe some unrealistic expectations. What are your thoughts on that?
Too true. And you find yourselves in these telephone game type scenarios often. Ideally, it's really only at the lower levels as you're climbing through your career. Yeah. By the time you reach mid-management, upper management, executive leadership in the engineering space, you hopefully will have found ways to translate better so that you are working with others who don't understand the way engineers think and vice versa. You actually do, you can almost chart your career growth with how much you shift the needle from knowing the engineering, knowing the science, knowing the detail to develop the engineering products, and shifting to, you don't have to know it all. You don't have to be able to build this yourself. You have a team that can do that. But instead, you can make this, showcase it as viable, as important, as exciting to others. You can make your engineering products work in that world and help the marketing team and help the legal team, help the HR team. You become that conduit, that translator, and having a really solid understanding of the engineering helps, but that's foundational. And then as you go into leadership, really do have to know, that have that conversational communication skill honed very well to work with all different areas.
Cool. And I can imagine actually then as you're going through that, there may be some challenging situations that you encounter. How do you then kind of maintain a positive reputation, a positive outlook, and et cetera?
Great question. Yeah, you're going to find yourselves in these situations anywhere in your career. And I would say you want to be true to yourself, be honest with the situation, be transparent, while still preserving a level of confidentiality, depending on who you're talking to, who you're dealing with. But for instance, I was working with one client as an example, and I knew the technical aspects that needed to happen. I was speaking with the board, and the board wasn't quite getting it. And so I reframed what it was that needed to happen in a way that they could understand and get an extra layer of management involved to be able to then give the board confidence and that this would actually work. And it turns out it was exactly the right thing to do. The board was then on board, pun intended, and they were backing the approach that I was proposing. And with that support, we also got better engagement from mid-management as well. So it worked out really well.
So it sounds like you had to do some, almost cross-silo or, almost like seeking help, collaboration with some of your, C-level peers. And, talk to me about that. How did that work?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. And you don't always encounter this, but when you do need it, it's great to have this skill. And you need to be able to, in order to work well across the aisle, across silo, if you will, as you mentioned, in order to be able to do that well, you really do have to have a solid understanding of your space, and you have to have a very, very good understanding of their space. And that comes with practice. That comes with listening over time and really absorbing. And this is where, again, your needle moves from really highly focused in engineering to actually trust that, you've got that, that's not going away. Continually reinforce that, if you will. You have teams that can help you with that, but add on all these other interactions with other departments in the company, at conferences, with other companies based, how things, different communication styles work, and you're able to then communicate well in a way that they understand where you're coming from, and almost as importantly, if not more importantly, you understand some of their concerns, their needs, their suggestions that you can then fold into, incorporate into the product and the workflows.
Okay. And so then you make all these great relationships, and you link arms with some of your C-level buddies, in marketing and sales. And then you touched upon before, talking to the board, and that's actually, gosh, that's one of the biggest relationships that you need as a C-level and especially as a head of engineering, to help them understand. Tell me about some of the qualities that you need in order to have a good interactions, relationships, communications to your board.
Sure. Yeah, I think I brought up the word transparency before. The board is there to help. They're there to help steer the company. They want, what's best for the organization. You can supply them with a good chunk of that. I would say two things. One, provide honestly the items that you need to share with them. Be direct, be transparent, be open. Let them be inquisitive. But secondarily, don't overstep and start providing from other teams. Number one, disrespectful to the other teams. Second, you don't really know the other team's perspectives as well as they do. The board will ask them directly anyway. So it's kind of it's a skill that you develop over time working with boards, where how much to share, how to share it in a way that gets them to focus in on what's either important or not, and not focus on what's not important. But at the same time, you don't overstep, don't get out of your lane, you don't, step on others' toes. You can suggest that other teams may have, some input on this, but for the most part, if you're leadership in engineering and you're speaking with a board, you want to make sure you share what's important in the engineering space without overstepping.
Excellent. And so far we've been talking about, managing up and managing across. How about managing down? Oftentimes one of the biggest things in terms of engineering is what kind of culture and expectations you have. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's great, Julio. Managing down, a couple different. You mentioned, being able to establish a culture. I would say that beyond that is also you want to establish a successor plan that you want to let people help people grow their own careers, and up to and including moving into your seat if that were the case. So managing down is really being aware that there are people that rely on you to set the tone, to be that conduit to other teams, to share the information that's necessary, to communicate with them, to help them foster their own development, to provide them opportunities. And it really helps all around when, and we've all been there, right? We've all worked for good bosses and not so great bosses. And so it's a matter of really establishing that in yourself, setting that, your own personal bar high enough. Oftentimes we get into a sort of a rat race mode where we're climbing, and we're not looking back down. We've all been, on lower rungs on the ladder, and we want to basically respect that others, are climbing the ladder right behind us, and providing that nurturing climate for them.
Excellent. Okay. And then, so as part of that culture, do you tend to source from one type of person, one school, or do you go for a broad range of schools, backgrounds, etc.? What's your philosophy on that?
Yeah, and you're going to encounter leaders that do in engineering and other leadership roles that have different ways of looking at this, and it's very tempting to basically say we need to develop X. We will get people who can do X, and I know I can do X. I can bring people in that are like me that can do X, and that's very short-sighted. My approach has always been broaden it out. Look for talent in play, or be receptive to talent that comes from less conventional places. Diversity is important in this space, to have a team that can, yes, get the job done as needed, but also provide that contrarian view, provide that alternate view, and be able to make it better, much better than it otherwise would be. So having sourcing from schools that you wouldn't normally expect, not beyond just schools, allowing if somebody has a skill set that you think is a little bit short on your team, bring them in, and that will be a major add, even if it's not exactly like everybody else on the team. And beyond just recruiting these types of diverse individuals is, you mentioned culture before, Julio, and is establishing the culture on the team that allows for that works well, that integrates well, that really individually also has that sense that different is better. And as long as you're getting, the net result is you're getting the product developed, and it's at the standards that need to be there, everything else is gravy. So you can do that with a much more diverse team than just having a really homogenous team.
All right, perfect, James. Thank you so much. Hey, and so that was my last question. Any closing thoughts, words of wisdoms that you want to leave us with?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this is this fantastic book for anybody who's interested in getting into those top engineering leadership roles. And as we were talking about management today, just want to emphasize that we're all managers of our own careers, and it's important that we take it seriously. And management doesn't mean you have to know it all. In fact, quite honestly, you just have to know where to source it all. And this book is a great place to help you identify: is this the right career path for you? Is this something that you have the skills for? And what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and then if it's something you want to pursue, how to get there. And it gives you a glimpse into that world. But managing your own careers is important. And we really developed this book to really help you manage your own career.
Excellent. All right, fantastic, James. And so once again, we've been talking about engineering leadership, Silicon Valley perspective. And then just quickly summarize, we've been talking not only about engineering management, but how to communicate up, sideways, down, some of the nuances and politics, and just some issues that arise as part of that. And then at the same time, talking about culture and diversity and a few other things. James, thank you very much. Very much appreciate all the time that you spent with here in terms of this interview, and I look forward to our future chats as well.
My pleasure. Thanks, Julio. Thanks, everybody. Take care.